Hello all, and welcome to another After Action report for the Combat Mission Scottish Corridor campaign. This video covers the 6th battle in the campaign, titled 10 out of 10. A synopsis of the campaign so far. Yesterday, the 26th of June, I led the 9th Cameronians to 3 victories. Today, the 27th, I've led the 2nd Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders to 1 loss and 1 victory. In the 2nd's first battle today, titled Humpty Dumpty, B and C Company were ordered to capture Colville and Torville. I only captured Colville, and C Company suffered around 40% losses during the battle. This meant the Germans continued to hold Torville and retained control of the main western highway route out of Caen, my first campaign loss. At midday, B Company circumnavigated Torville to join the main highway further west of Torville and successfully pushed the Germans out of Mondrainville, securing the main highway in the battle titled Mondrainville. This 5th battle victory has forced the SS and Grenadiers defending Torville to withdraw south or risk being isolated and encircled by B Company to their west. This brings us to battle number 6. It's 1700 hours on the 27th, and I'm back in command of C Company of the 2nd. We've received no replacements or resupply and have advanced south-southeast from Mondrainville towards the River Odin. Battalion orders are to A. Engage the defending force and inflict as heavy casualties as possible, and B. Cross the River Odin and secure the southern side of the bridge by exiting my force off the map. The rain has stopped, but the ground is wet, which means there are risk of vehicles getting stuck. There is a slight rainy mist in the air, which has little impact on line of sight, and it's a cool temperature for June. Battalion intel so far in the campaign has been poor. If this reflects the reality of 1944, I don't know, but it has made mission planning more challenging. Current reports state the SS and the Grenadiers are disorganised and morale is low. They comprise mostly of rear echelon soldiers, cooks and orderlies, etc. I'm sceptical about the intel, so I will consider this in my battle plan, but I will not expect to face a demoralised force. My order of battle consists of 13, 14 and 15 platoons of C Company, 3 Bren carriers of 4 platoon and a 6-pounder AT gun. I also have 25-pounder and 81mm off-map support, which was assigned to the 2nd this morning, and I haven't used in the previous 2 battles. C Company is around 50 to 60% strength. Ammunition is limited, but I've shared out the 303 and 9mm that the carriers are carrying, supplementing the infantry. Morale is okay, but not everyone has recovered from the battle for Torville. Some of 15 platoon are cautious, so I'll need to consider this in my movement orders. Looking at the AO, this view is south-facing. C Company are positioned in the north, or the lower left-hand corner of this view, and we must advance south and exit the map on the far centre. I've identified 5 key locations in the AO. All consist of brick buildings with hedgerows or small coppices in close proximity, and I consider them to offer the best locations for defence. An advance which best utilises the available concealment will manoeuvre through 3 of these locations. They are Taylor, Lake and Monroe. The southern end of the map also offers the defenders the opportunity for a reverse slope defence. The wooded area following the flow of the river and the 3-storey buildings are specifically concerning, as I have a reduced force and limited ammunition to lay down suppressive fire and for a protracted firefight. I will advance as depicted by the blue lines. Where concealment is available, I will set up supporting fire bases on the orange lines. Where there is limited or no concealment, I will advance by leapfrogging using platoon or company attack drills. The Bren Universal Carrier Platoon, 4 platoon, each have a fixed Bren gun accompanied by a driver, and a Bren team of 3. I shall deploy the Bren teams on foot and use depleted detachments from the infantry sections to crew the Bren on the carriers. I expect this to maximise my firepower, effectively giving me 6 Bren guns and minimising the carrier crew's exposure to small arms fire. Each carrier will have a driver and a 1 or 2 man gunner crew. I'll be cautious leading with the carriers as they are easily destroyed by Panzerschrecks, but I anticipate the lightly armoured carriers to give me a reasonable force multiplier. I'm not used to carriers in this role before, previously using them only as glorified battle taxis. I expect location Russell to be crewed with the German MG team. It is a perfect location, giving good line of sight and surrounded by open terrain, making any attack difficult. Initially, I shall use the 81mm mortars to lay down fire across the copse to the right of location Lake, supporting my initial advance. The FO shall then finally use the battalion 25 pounder arty that I've reserved through the last 2 battles, putting it on location Russell. The defiladed wooded area at the most southern end of the AO conceals the river, Odin and the bridge. I want to limit my movement through this terrain. Densely wooded areas offer excellent concealment from ambushes and allow small groups to inflict heavy casualties with a reduced risk to themselves. This means I will avoid location Haver, the dwellings close to the bridge, and I will push through the trees in as direct a line as possible to the exit. This will keep my engagement area through the woodland to a minimum. I will leave the vehicles on the northern side of the river and not exit them off the map with the infantry of C Company. We join the battle with 14 platoon providing cover, 15 platoon in reserve, with 13 platoon sending out scouts. Taylor looks clear, so 13 platoon advances. I immediately bring up the carriers to provide support, as 13 platoon comes under fire. The copse at Taylor is defended and the FO calls in a mortar barrage. 14 platoon lay down suppressive fire while 13 platoon advances on the buildings at Taylor. A second line of defence is spotted at Objective Lake, behind the buildings at Taylor. 3 Section 13 platoon lay down smoke and suppressive fire. Meanwhile, the defenders at Taylor appear to be withdrawing to location Lake. 13 platoon quickly advance with support from the Bren carriers. With little return fire, they start to leapfrog forward towards Lake. The mortar fire has already been redirected to the copse to the right of Lake. Free Section 13 platoon lead the assault on Lake. Quickly followed by the rest of the platoon. All three carriers are actively supporting 13 platoon, but the ground is wet and they occasionally get bogged. Defence of Lake is light and sporadic. 13 platoon quickly advance. Pushing through the buildings to the woodland behind. A detachment from 2nd section start to push into the woodland on the left. Whilst 14 platoon move up to the woodland on the right of Objective Lake. Lead elements are immediately engaged. The woodland is dense and there's Panzer Grenadiers inside. 14 platoon breaks into detachments and starts to hunt through the woodland. I order a Bren carrier forward to continue the advance. As more of 14 platoon push into the trees. I take my first casualties, which I can ill afford. 13 and 14 platoons have advanced along the blue lines. 15 minutes into the battle and we've secured Objective Taylor and are working through Objective Lake. The defenders of Lake are withdrawing to Monroe. A section-size force appears to continue to defend the woodland on the right of Lake. The FO at Taylor calls the barrage on Russell. The fighting in the woodland at Lake intensifies. I have to clear the woodland before I can advance. But it's getting costly. I bring up 2 Bren groups to support. Just as the Grenadiers panic. The second show little mercy, but do take prisoners. A carrier takes point. Whilst my advance is risky, the hammer-type style is proving effective. The heavy firepower is causing casualties, and the morale seems to be breaking. I want to keep the pressure on, so I order 14 platoon on my left flank to advance, supporting the brain carriers. My carriers are pushing past some of the defenders, but the infantry are mopping up behind them. The rest of the company advances in support of 14 platoon. As 14 platoon starts to bound towards Monroe, it comes under fire. The brain carriers provide support. There's a stronger defence at Monroe than there was at Taylor or Lake. Seems the intel was right, and they're not frontline troops. I continue to use 13 platoon as my lead for the infantry.
Keep moving! Go, go, go! Fire for effect, over!
The spotting skills and the response of the Germans is less than my own troops. It's allowing me to be more aggressive with my advance. The defending Panzer Grenadiers are quickly routed. As they break, they're more exposed, creating more panic and disorder. The brain carriers are doing an excellent job, and I continue to keep them at the front line. Small pockets of defence slow my advance. Thankfully the MG is dealt with quickly before it can cause any casualties, and the crew break. My original plan was to push direct south and exit the infantry off of the map. My intel seems to have been correct. I'm facing a disorganised and poorly trained defence, which is trying to stage a fighting withdrawal at the red line. I make the decision to adjust my plan, push through to Havre and take my entire force off of the map. I shall also bring in my reserves and attempt to eliminate as many defenders as possible. So let's get the seconds stuck in. The German fighting withdrawal quickly starts to collapse. '13 and 14 platoon push forward, together with 4 platoon brain carriers. Revenge for Torval is sweet. '15 platoon move up and cover my right flank. They give no quarter. The tree line appears to be defended, but it's light. I have an overwhelming force. And gentlemanly conduct has been left back in Blighty. Unless there's something heavy at Havre, it's a simple dash through to the exit. I pause my advance for around 10 minutes and put the last of my mortars onto Havre. I do have some soft vehicles, so I'll get the infantry to clear out the buildings at Havre before I bring everybody through and exit them off the map. So let's watch the last of my dance with 2nd Battalion Panzer Grenadiers. 13 platoon continue to spearhead the advance and push through the woodland.
Hello, round complete. End of mission. Out.
And as the mortar barrage ends, I bring up the brain carriers and push 13 platoon south across the river. It looks like Havre is defended, but I've got my regulars supporting each other with crossing fire.
let's go. Come on.
14 platoon push to the walls of Havre. It's too quiet. I send the lead carrier to secure the bridge over the River Auden. And 14 platoon move into the farmstead at Havre. It's occupied. I don't know the size of the force. I send a Bren team on foot round the southern side of the buildings. And Lance Corporal McNash brings the second Bren into the line of sight. The flanking Bren team move into position. I take a casualty, but most of the German defenders surrender. One of the Panzer Grenadiers makes a break for it and shoots Corporal Dickinson in the chest. Two Section 14 platoon secure the prisoners. The rest of 4 platoon hunt the fleeing grenadier. But it's 2 Section that put him down. With no further contact, I start to exit C Company off of the map. "15 platoon first aiders start to apply buddy aid to the fallen comrades at Havre. But there's no saving Dickinson, so they strip his ammo. As the commanding officer C Company exits the map, let's see what the battlefield looks like. I get a tactical victory. I must admit I thought I'd get more than that. An acceptable level of enemy casualties. I captured 12, inflicted over 50 casualties, and only 26 men escaped. The Grenadiers, 171 points for causing 15 casualties. That's some harsh victory parameters. If we look at the disposition of the forces, yeah, 2 Germans in the field, unit pretty much wiped out, a 4-man MG team in Russell, and no allies because they've all exited off the map, other than a bogged universal carrier. I hope you enjoyed the battle. Please remember to subscribe, and I shall be following up with the other videos as quickly as possible.